Hello and welcome to the first of the webinar series performed by my name is Carl Llewellyn. I am the International Commercial Director with Wheresight. Wheresight, briefly as a business, we work with DMOs to help them to measure, benchmark and impact the digital maturity of their operators. And we do this with all English-speaking markets around the world. Today, we're going to be talking, and as part of this series, we're going to talk about the challenges and the opportunities and the insights that we see have been faced by DMOs, and really sharing those with the wider community. Today, I'm joined by Mike Jones, and we're going to be talking about tourism advocacy. This is something that we are seeing is becoming increasingly more important to DMOs, especially how smaller and mid-sized destinations can back up that value with real data in terms of their budgeting and management. So, hi, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning, Carol. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, and always good to be here talking about a new and exciting topic.
Great. Mike, what's your role within Wheresight?
So currently, I work as head of tourism technology, which essentially means that I work closely with our business partners, DMOs, around the world, predominantly here in Ireland, where we've been growing quite a strong presence. And I advise them and support them in essentially using our tools to measure their digital maturity and then provide them insights based on that so that they can make real impactful change in their destinations.
Right. And we must share that digital maturity is a term that we're going to be using again and again. So we define digital maturity as being how a business uses digital tools, data, and skills to improve the customer experience, the customer journey, and optimize their value. So it's the collective term to how good are we across all those three digital spaces. So you will hear us referencing that. While we're doing definitions, Mike, tell us what is advocacy in a tourist context, and why has it become more important in recent years?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I suppose as we think about tourism and how it's evolved over the past few decades, we're starting to see a shift away from some of the traditional metrics, I suppose. Traditionally people will talk about, bums on seats, heads in beds. And that bed night metric is one that was used predominantly in many destinations to measure and get a proxy for the value of the industry. But what we're seeing now is a shift away from that because maybe not everybody stays over, or the value is not seen across the destination. So advocacy really is about understanding the true value, I suppose, of tourism into a destination. So that goes from the small walking tour operator to the bike hire operator, right through to maybe the small local museum, and as it feeds through hotels and restaurants, and right through how is that tourism dollar and impact measured across the destination. And as DMOs, I suppose, move beyond marketing and into this advocacy space, it's for them to understand and advocate on behalf of the destination and the industry in their destination to raise funds, I suppose. How are tourism tax dollars spent? And that advocacy piece is key to that, bringing good, relevant, recent data to the table to make your case to make sure that your destination can thrive into the future.
Yeah, it's really about optimizing that tourist spend, isn't it? That it's not just the money that's spent at the hotel, or their accommodation. It's where else did they spend it in the community? It's about that rising tide lifting all boats, isn't it? Advocacy to me is a lot of that. And what are the key challenges smaller or regional DMOs face when it comes to advocacy?
There's a lot of negative press for tourism around the globe at the moment. There's, over tourism is a word that we didn't think, a couple of decades ago could exist. And it's still not a word that's used in many destinations. There's plenty of places that have the doors wide open, right? And they're saying, come and get it. We'll welcome you in. And while others are on the other end of that spectrum. So that's as destinations do start to grow, maybe some nervousness starts to come in. People are looking at those places with that over tourism label on them, and they're generally few and far between. They just happen to be very high profile, right? But many destinations are still, fighting to get more people in, and like I say, they've got their arms open and their doors wide open, and they're ready and willing to welcome people. So, but the narrative that can be out there, amongst the residents, amongst the local community, can be that tourism is a bad thing. So advocacy helps gather data, as you say, it helps them understand and optimize, and communicate that message then to say, actually, we're nowhere near over tourism. This is our capacity. This is where we're at the moment in terms of that capacity. And we're nowhere near full. And not only that, but if we were to grow, these are the positive benefits it could have on tour, not on tourism, rather, obviously on tourism, but to the local community, to the local economy, and how that can have a really, really positive impact for everybody, I suppose. And we use things like the voice model, which people might be familiar with, and that talks about the visitor, the industry, so the tourism operators, the community, and the environment. And those last two are becoming more and more important, I suppose, to many people in destinations. And that's how we help people look at these things in the round, I suppose, as we gather data and derive insights.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I also see in 2025, and as people plan into 2026, it's not so much over tourism, it's getting the value from the tourists that are coming in. So if I have a tourist number from last year, if I can equal that number, but maybe get them spending more, optimization is is a real goal that I'm seeing with smaller DMOs. That why why put my focus on attracting more tourists in to spend $1,000 when I might be able to get the same number of tourists to spend $2,000. And I think that's a big advocacy because that hits all the numbers. It's good for it, you mentioned over tourism, but it's also about sustainability. It's also making sure that we're spreading the wealth across all the contributory businesses in the region. But but I think the big challenge that business have is, right, how do I define that? Where's my data? It's difficult to report that you've done that's been successful. Hotel nights is easy. It's getting that other data is kind of the hard bit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's easy ring around the hotels, as it's been done in many destinations for
Yeah.
several years at the end of each month and say, hey, John, how many beds did you fill this month? And they're willing to give that number over. Getting out to all of the businesses, all of the stakeholders in industry, that are in a destination, and gathering that data is much more challenging, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's part of what we're striving to do. And as we increase digital maturity, we look at ways of gathering this data electronically and digitally, and then being able to gather that and harvest that in more real time as well. And one of the things that we're working very successfully on is getting more recent data,
Yeah.
because often we're working very, very much in the past. Monthly surveys would be a good thing, but not every destination has them. Many work, a year behind, almost 12 months behind. So they don't have current data and recent data to really test what's happening in the destination,
Well,
track it, and then
let's go right into
optimize.
that. Like, what kind of data reporting capabilities are within? I mean, look, we our solution is called Wheresight's DMA, which stands for Digital Maturity Accelerator, right? So, what kind of data reporting tools are actually provided that can support advocacy efforts within the DMO?
Yeah, so there's the obvious kind of marketing stuff that we talked about. Many DMOs will be aware of that. But one of the key things that we look at within this is things like digital skills. And
Yeah.
by that, we mean the people working in the industry gathering more knowledge, in order to allow them to perform better and ultimately to make the businesses more operationally efficient and more profitable, at the end of that. So
Yeah.
what you're seeing now is a workforce that, it's often school leavers. Some people go to college or university and come back into the industry, but a lot of people living locally in family businesses, for example, getting opportunities to identify areas for skill development which are going to support their business. So this is not an ad hoc, everybody does a course on how to use social media. This is pinpointed skills that are saying, okay, this business needs, to understand this area, whether that's a booking system, it could be a marketing tool, it could be financial reporting systems, and we help create interventions to work with individual businesses or groups of businesses to provide that and raise the skill level of the industry. And that's a lasting thing. Once people have that knowledge, they have it, right? They can
Yeah.
grow, then they grow their business, and that continues over years and years. And that knowledge is now kind of baked in to the industry, to the business, and will serve them many years into the future. And that's only a positive thing. So that's one of the key areas that we can measure with our tool, which traditionally has gone unmeasured, I suppose. And we can also, like I say, identify areas of skill development that would benefit best for any business or destination.
Yeah, what we've experienced, Mike, as you know, is like we've worked with over 800 business, well, almost 800 businesses now, individual businesses across experiences, adventure, hospitality, festivals, events, and now even sports. And what the DMA tool does quite uniquely is it does that initial assessment of the business where they are today. It
Yeah.
gives them back to them in a very easy to digest format. It benchmarks that against peers so people are able to see, oh, this is where I'm at. This is where around the corner is at, or in the next state is at. Similar business to me, a fishing experience, Italian restaurant, a pottery barn, a wine shop. Okay, so that's where I need to get to. And then it gives them the roadmap on how to get from where they are today and to where they need to be. And on top of that roadmap, it gives them the mentorship to be able to implement that plan. And that's what we've been proven to do successfully, again and again and again. I mean, it does come back to the old adage of, look, if I can measure it, I can manage it. And that is definitely the bedrock of what we're delivering to businesses. But it's also saying, okay, you told me there's an issue here or what I need to improve on. Now show me how to make that happen. And I think that's what we're experiencing is the uniqueness of the product and the one that is having such terrific results with the businesses that we've worked with to date. Um, well, when we look at those businesses, and you've seen some amazing success stories, can you give us a few examples of where of outcomes that little operators can expect that go through our program?
Yeah, so we've worked with, like you say, across Ireland. We've worked with a number of different sized businesses. So we can take some of the larger castles and kind of global brands that are out there. They've got full-time staff. They've got dozens of years of experience doing what they're doing. And our tool allows us to work with a business that's mature, a mature business, and understand where they need to invest their time, energy, resources to increase their digital maturity. And it's surprising sometimes that they can be excellent in one area. And when we look at our 5 pillars and 18 metrics that our tool measures, we
Yeah,
can really, as you mentioned, pinpoint, which department maybe in that organization needs greater skill investment. But then you also go all the way down to the other end. We work with a number of one man or one woman in a van, right? Half dozen bikes in the back of the van, and they've got a little trail project nearby, or they've got a few surfboards or something like that. But they are, a cottage industry, but they have this aspirations to be bigger. They want their business to grow, but they can't grow because it's them. They are the business. They are everything. They're the booking agents. They are the guide. They are the maintenance team, the
they're the
driver.
instructor. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
they do
driver, the
everything.
whole lot. Yeah, yeah.
And they don't often have time to step out and understand where they should be investing their time, which is probably their biggest asset and their most precious asset. And the tool helps them identify, okay, you have to run your business, but if you could spend 10% of your time doing this one thing, you would see a measurable increase in revenue. Or if you were to spend 10% of doing this other thing, you would see an operational efficiency, which would give you back more time. Would give you the skills maybe to increase or improve a performance, a process somewhere, and give you back time. And when we combine that over the 2 year program, say that we've been running here, the tool has allowed us to support businesses through a guided roadmap where they can make improvements over that period and come out the other end more efficient, creating greater sales and ultimately more profitable. And we've seen a number of small businesses grow from that one man, one woman, and a van, or a couple, a young couple. We've seen a few of those trying to grow their family business, and take that to the next level. And now they're hiring people maybe just for a season at first, maybe then for slightly longer, and so on and so forth. And this program and measurement, I suppose, up front has allowed them to understand how do they grow. And it's been really exciting to work with some of those participants and see their businesses evolve
Yeah.
and develop over time.
Yeah, I know. I've seen a few myself. Like those examples where you're seeing a 300% increase in online sales in some cases, like just wildly different, just from taking the time. I think one of the key benefits of the program for some of those, particularly those smaller businesses that are going, right, I know there's a lot I need to do, is it tells them what's important next. What's the
Yeah,
first thing to do? And then do
absolutely.
this. And then
Yeah.
do this. It's not you got to do all these 10 things, which is daunting. As they say, how do you eat an elephant? Bite at a time. So I feel that is a lot of the time one of the benefits that we're giving is working with them over a sustained period of time to help improve in those steps. You keep saying the word program, and sometimes people see program and go, oh, that sounds like work. And I'm thinking of, what would you say to a DMO that feels they don't have the time or resource to focus on something like digital maturity, whether they were working with Wheresight or taking it on themselves?
Yeah, so I suppose I'm in the detail of the delivery of the program here, but the first step is always how do we work with people? How do we measure up front? So
Yeah,
the digital maturity accelerator tool is designed to be as easy to use as possible, and we have a team of consultants who've been delivering this for a number of years who work closely with a DMO. So really, all the DMO has to decide is, I want to measure this. I'm going to assign somebody to work with the Wheresight team, and I'm going to identify the businesses. So that's the key step, really. We need
yeah,
a list of businesses and a list of contacts. We put them into our tool, and then we reach out to those businesses with the assessment uh, tool. It's all done electronically and digitally, so it's all remote. People can fill it out in their own time. They can step away and save it if they need to gather more information. But from a DMO perspective, the work is absolutely minimal.
yeah,
We do most of the heavy lifting, and what you get at the end of it, once the surveys come back in, and the results, rather, the assessment come back in, you get presented with those. You don't have to go trawling through the answers. We gather that data, we present it back in dashboards and reports with actionable insight. So, and that's the key piece. It's not
yeah,
just send this out and then send you back an Excel sheet. We present you with what your industry looks like in your destination across all of the pillars and metrics that we measure. And then we give you insight into where to improve. And that's where the program starts. Should you wish to kind
yeah,
of engage on a more detailed program, that's where that piece would start, is once we understand where the needs are.
yeah,
But up front, it's a really, really simple process, and we've been really conscious of that because you and I have been working in the industry for a number of years now, and everybody's busy. Everybody's busy, and people used to think it's going to get quiet in my off season. I can't wait for peak season
yeah,
to be done, and then as soon as that's done, they hit the road. They're off the trade shows. They've got trade engagement. They've got other things happening. They're launching marketing campaigns to be ready for the next season, and before you know it, you're back in season. So we get it. We work with destinations and have met with destinations all over the planet, and everybody is at the limit. So the last thing we want to do is make work for people. What we
yeah.
want to do is create insight so that the work that they're doing, I suppose, is more targeted and is creating more value for their destination.
Yeah, I think that's the critical thing, is that if when we're doing this job right, we become an integral part of your decision making, because we're able to give you the data which supports your funding and your request for funding, and the proof that the funding that you spent the previous year was well spent. Um, and we've seen that with our existing clients, how again and again they're using that data to report on the success of spend, because it's not it's having that strong argument for wasted dollar or wasted campaigns, and I think we really help with that. That's been great. I mean, if you were going to give one takeaway for every kind of regional DMO leader, what should they be thinking about when it comes to advocacy as they plan for 2026?
Yeah, and I was thinking about this quite a bit, and it's very hard to give a one size fits all solution
Yeah,
because everywhere is a little bit different. Like we talked about at the outset, some places are in that over tourism space or maybe on the cusp of it. Others are at the other end screaming and saying, "Come visit me." So really, it's about looking at what are your advocacy challenges. What are the challenges in your destination right now? If you're in the space of, do I need to win over the community and the local residents and maybe the local government, or am I in the space where I need more marketing money? I need to talk to somebody to generate to look at how do we generate more revenue, say from some sort of tax, tourism tax or something like that. So look at what your challenges are, and then look at how do I advocate on behalf of the area, the destination, based on this challenge. Do I have the tools, the data, the resources to do that? If you don't have the tools, then maybe you come and talk to us. If you don't have the data, again, that's something we work with the destinations very closely on, is helping them gather and understand the data from their industry. And that's the key piece for me, really. It's just identifying where's your biggest challenge for now and the immediate future, and look at, do you have the tools and data and resources at your disposal to help answer that? And if not, how are you going to get them? And we'd be happy to have a conversation and see if we could be part of the solution for you in overcoming that challenge.
Yeah, great. Mike, this has been terrific. I know we've bounced along the whole advocacy piece, and there's a lot deeper diving that can be done, but hopefully this was useful to anyone who listens in. And look, if you are a DMO navigating these challenges and want to explore, what's possible with Wheresight's DMA, if you'd like further details on any of the case studies, success stories, insights of what we've done to date, we're happy to share them freely. There's lots of learnings within them, which we're very happy to give to you as part of our community. Please reach out to us through our website or through LinkedIn. As that's it for this session. We look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye for now. Bye, Mike.
Thanks, Carl. Bye.